"Sir, step away from the gate." Sergeant Luke Barrett's voice cut through the cold Virginia morning with the clean edge of a command he had given many times and questioned almost never. Walter Mercer stopped beneath the stone archway of Arlington National Cemetery. One polished shoe rested just beyond the painted ceremonial access line. He was 84 years old, thin beneath a black suit that had been carefully pressed but could not hide its age. The suit had hung in the back of his closet for 11 years. Walter wore it only when someone he had once served beside was being buried. In his left hand, he carried a small walnut box. In his right, he held a folded card softened at the corners from being opened too many times. Beyond the checkpoint, flags at half-staff pulled against a hard wind. Black sedans waited at the procession hold point. Senior officers, government officials, family members, and the casket of General Thomas Edward Whitmore would reach the chapel in less than 8 minutes. Barrett raised a handheld credential scanner. Invitation. Walter offered the card. Barrett unfolded it. 6 words had been written across the center. For Walt. Front row. No questions. Below them was the signature of Thomas Whitmore. No barcode. No letterhead. No printed date. No funeral credential number. Barrett turned the paper over. The back was blank. This is not an access credential. It came from Tom. The sergeant looked at Walter's worn shoes, old suit, and empty lapels. No medals. No service pin. Nothing that explained why a 4-star general would reserve a front row seat for him. You mean General Whitmore? Walter looked beyond him toward the chapel lawn. 8 members of the honor guard stood beside the casket route. Their uniforms were dark against the white headstones. Their rifles rested in exact alignment. At the far end of the formation was an open position. Walter counted the soldiers. Once. Then again. 8. One place empty. Before he was a general, Walter said, he was Tom. Barrett entered Walter's name into the roster. No result appeared. He tried again. Walter James Mercer? Yes. You are not on the restricted funeral list. Walter kept his eyes on the empty position. Tom said there would be a place. Barrett followed his gaze. He saw an incomplete formation. Walter saw an instruction. The public viewing area is half a mile east, Barrett said. Staff there can assist you. I did not come for the public area. This funeral includes senior military leadership and protected government officials. I cannot permit entry based on a handwritten note. Walter looked down at the card. It is signed. It cannot be authenticated at this checkpoint. A distant bugle sounded a short test note. The sound crossed the headstones. Clear. Lonely. Walter's fingers tightened around the walnut box. Barrett lowered the scanner. I need you behind the line. Walter did not move. The sergeant stepped closer. The procession reaches the gate in 7 minutes. Walter looked again at the honor guard. 8 men. One place open. His voice became so quiet Barrett had to lean forward. Then you are about to begin 1 man short. Barrett studied him. Walter did not look confused. He did not stare at the uniforms, vehicles, or media crews. He looked like a man who had reached the end of a road he had been walking for more than half a century. Who exactly were you to General Whitmore? Barrett asked. Walter looked toward the approaching sedans. A man who brought him home. The answer did not satisfy the scanner. Barrett touched the radio on his shoulder. Security 2, supervisory verification requested at the north ceremonial gate. Walter lowered his eyes to the walnut box. Inside were 3 objects he had not placed together since the morning after Thomas Whitmore came home alive. A burned dog tag. A length of faded parachute cord. A dented silver coin. Each had once been ordinary. Time had made them evidence. Grief had made them heavy. Walter received Tom's card 6 months earlier. He read it once, folded it, then placed it in the box. 2 weeks later, Tom called. Walter saw the name on the telephone while driving. He told himself he would call that evening. He forgot. The following morning, an aide informed him that General Whitmore had been admitted to the hospital. Walter never heard Tom's voice again. He had driven 300 miles to Arlington carrying a sentence he could no longer say to the man who needed to hear it. I should have called you back. A young officer approached the checkpoint at a fast walk. First Lieutenant Connor Hayes wore a ceremonial uniform without a crease out of place. His expression suggested that delays were problems to be solved before anyone important noticed them. What is the issue? Barrett handed him the card. This gentleman says General Whitmore invited him personally. His name is not on the roster. Hayes read the 6 words, then looked at Walter. Military identification? Walter removed an old leather wallet and offered his veteran identification card. Hayes scanned it. Former Army medic. Yes. No unit information. Not on that card. Hayes handed it back. The funeral office has no Walter Mercer listed as family, former command, staff, or invited guest. Walter glanced toward the lawn. The general knew where to place me. General Whitmore knew thousands of people. He did. Many of them believed they knew him personally. The lieutenant delivered the sentence politely. That made the judgment inside it clearer. Walter raised his pale eyes. I knew him before people stood when he entered a room. Hayes looked toward the procession route. A local news crew had begun watching the checkpoint. The lieutenant lowered his voice. Mr. Mercer, I do not want this to become embarrassing. Walter looked at him. For whom? Barrett shifted his weight. Hayes continued. The ceremony has been planned to the minute. The family deserves order. So did Tom. That is what we are protecting. Walter raised the walnut box. Then take this to Captain Daniel Brooks. Hayes did not reach for it. What is inside? Things that belonged to Tom before anyone called him General. An unverified container cannot pass into the inner perimeter. You may inspect it. Hayes looked at Barrett. The sergeant retrieved a visual inspection tray. Walter placed the box on it, but kept one hand over the lid. Do not separate anything. Hayes nodded. Walter released the brass latch. The lid opened. The burned dog tag rested on faded cloth. Beside it lay the parachute cord and the dented silver coin. Hayes leaned closer. His expression remained controlled until he read the stamped name. Thomas E. Whitmore. The old service number remained visible beneath it. Barrett stopped breathing for a moment. Hayes looked at Walter. Why do you have General Whitmore's dog tag? Because for 3 days, the Army believed he was dead. The hearse appeared at the far bend. Hayes studied the tag. This confirms you possess an identification item bearing his name. It does not prove how you received it. Walter's voice remained even. No. He pointed toward the handwritten card. Tom did that. Hayes looked at the cord. And this? 7 men who could not afford to lose one another in the fog. The coin. Walter looked at the dent across its face. 3 minutes. Hayes frowned. 3 minutes of what? Radio. The motorcycle escort entered the cemetery gate. Time closed around them. Barrett spoke quietly. Lieutenant, we need to clear the lane. Hayes nodded. Mr. Mercer, the box will remain here for verification. Sergeant Barrett will escort you to secondary screening until the procession passes. Walter placed his hand over the box. No, Hayes stiffened. You agreed to inspection. Inspection. Walter pulled the box toward himself. Not removal. The hearse was less than 200 yards away. Hayes extended one white-gloved hand. Sir, do not turn this into a security incident. Walter looked through the dark glass toward the flag-draped casket. For the first time that morning, his control weakened. Not anger. Grief. Old. Disciplined. And close to the surface. I came 300 miles to keep a promise. Hayes softened his voice. Then allow us to verify it properly. Walter looked at the 6 handwritten words. There is no proper way to arrive late at a friend's funeral. The sentence stopped Barrett. Walter closed the box. He looked toward the public viewing route. For one moment, he considered turning away. He had been late returning Tom's call. Now he had arrived too late to stand beside him. Perhaps that was what the empty position meant. Not a place waiting. A place already missed. Walter lifted the box. I am not asking you to believe my story, he said. Hayes watched him. I am asking you not to bury him before you verify his last order. Inside the cemetery, Captain Daniel Brooks checked the honor guard formation for the 3rd time. 8 soldiers stood beside the ceremonial path. The 9th position remained open. General Whitmore's instruction had been specific. Do not fill the 9th place until Mercer arrives. No rank. No unit. No explanation. Brooks had assumed Mercer would arrive with senior command or family. Now the casket was approaching, and the position remained empty. Specialist Emily Carter stood beside the communications table with the funeral packet. Any report from the north gate? Brooks asked. No arrival logged, sir. Brooks looked toward the checkpoint. Vehicles blocked most of the view, but he could see a small group near the security lane. Call them. Emily raised the radio. North gate. Confirm status of Walter James Mercer. At the checkpoint, Barrett looked toward the radio. Hayes became still. Emily repeated the name. Captain Brooks is requesting Walter James Mercer. The scanner still showed nothing. The radio did not. Walter looked at Hayes. Now you know who to tell. Hayes lifted the radio. This is Lieutenant Hayes. We have an elderly veteran claiming personal access based on a handwritten card. He has a veteran identification card and possesses a dog tag bearing General Whitmore's name. Brooks answered immediately. Do not remove him from the gate. Hayes looked toward the hearse. Sir, the procession is entering the hold point. Hold there. Brooks turned to Emily, opened the restricted funeral order attachment. She found a sealed file. If Walter James Mercer arrives. Her access was denied. Brooks entered his command credentials. A prompt appeared. Open only upon verified arrival. He confirmed the name. The file opened. A scanned handwritten letter filled the screen. Daniel, if Walter James Mercer comes to my funeral, do not ask what rank he held. Do not ask why his name is absent from the public record. Do not make him prove what I already know. Leave the 9th position open. When his name is spoken, the honor guard will stand at attention. Every rank I ever carried exists because Walter brought 7 men home, including me. He refused recognition because the mission remained restricted, and because he believed a medic should be remembered by the men who lived, not by the paper that followed them. If the guest list fails him, the failure is mine. Bring him in. Thomas E. Whitmore. Captain Brooks read the final words twice. Bring him in. The funeral coordinator signaled that the casket detail had 60 seconds before movement. Brooks folded a printed copy of the order. Hold the ceremony. Emily looked toward the family section. Sir, General Whitmore left a lawful instruction in the funeral plan. Brooks looked at the empty 9th position. We do not move until it is filled. Emily transmitted the command. The casket detail remained in place. Heads turned across the cemetery. Brooks faced the honor guard. Honor element, face north gate. 8 soldiers turned as one. Their heels struck the stone with one sharp crack. At the checkpoint, Walter heard the sound before he saw them. Then came the steps. Measured. Even. The honor guard had left the formation. Barrett looked over his shoulder. Hayes became motionless. 8 soldiers advanced in 2 precise files with Captain Brooks at the front. Behind them, the 9th position remained empty. The hearse waited. No one complained about the delay. The sight of an honor guard walking away from a 4-star funeral silenced every conversation along the road. Captain Brooks stopped before the security line. Sergeant Barrett. Sir, open the ceremonial lane. Barrett moved immediately. The scanner remained in his hand. He looked at its blank screen, then switched it off. The honor guard divided into 2 lines. For soldiers on each side of Walter. White gloves. Dark uniforms. Rifles still. The walnut box rested against Walter's chest. Brooks approached. Sir, I need to confirm your name. Walter looked at the soldiers surrounding him. Walter James Mercer. Brooks drew one breath, then turned. Honor guard, attention. 8 bodies straightened. 8 heels met stone with one crack that traveled across the cemetery. Brooks unfolded Whitmore's letter. By final written order of General Thomas Edward Whitmore. This formation recognizes the man whose courage made every honor of his later life possible. Walter's fingers tightened around the box. Brooks did not announce rank. He did not list a unit. He spoke only the name. Walter James Mercer. Then came the command. Present, arms. 8 ceremonial rifles moved in perfect unison. Across the cemetery, senior officers turned toward the gate. A retired colonel came to attention. Then another. Then a general. Barrett stood beside the open lane with the dark scanner at his side. Hayes lowered his eyes. Walter stood inside the salute. His face remained composed. His eyes did not. The grief he had controlled since dawn rose close enough for every man there to see. Brooks held the salute. General Whitmore did not leave an empty place. He looked toward the formation. He left your place. Walter followed his gaze. He always did keep his word. Brooks lowered his hand. The honor guard followed. Then he extended one arm toward the gate. Bring him in. Barrett stepped fully aside. Walter crossed the painted security line. No alarm sounded. No screen changed. The gate simply opened. Hayes lifted the walnut box from the inspection tray. This time, he held it with both hands. Walter looked at him. I will carry it. Hayes offered the box back carefully. I protected the list and nearly failed the man it was supposed to honor. Walter accepted it. Then remember what lists cannot carry. Yes, sir. Barrett stood at attention. Mr. Mercer, I should have taken the card seriously. Walter paused. You should have taken the person seriously. Barrett accepted the correction. Yes, sir. Captain Brooks led Walter along the stone path. Guests moved aside. Some knew only that the late general had ordered the recognition. Others had heard Walter's name over the radio and watched senior officers stand without explanation. Walter walked slowly. His knees were stiff. The honor guard shortened its pace to match him. Without breaking rhythm, no one rushed him. At the formation, the 9th position waited. Brooks stopped beside it. General Whitmore requested that you stand here during the arrival. Walter looked at the untouched strip of stone. For 54 years, Thomas Whitmore had moved through commands, promotions, ceremonies, and guarded rooms. Somewhere inside all that rank, he had kept one place open for the medic who refused to leave him in the rain. Walter stepped into the 9th position. The honor guard reformed beside him. 8 soldiers, 1 old man in a black suit. For the first time, the line was complete. Only then did the casket detail move. The flag-draped coffin came forward beneath the gray sky. Walter kept his eyes on it. He counted the bearers. He counted the honor guard. Then counted again. Tom's voice returned from 54 years earlier. Count them twice, Walt. Men disappear when you count only once. Walter counted. No one missing. Not today. After the casket was placed, an elderly woman rose from the front row. Margaret Whitmore crossed the grass without waiting for an escort. She looked directly at Walter. Walt. The sound of his name in her voice broke something the salute had not. Walter's shoulders lowered. Hello, Margaret. She took his scarred hands. Tom was afraid you would not come. So was I. He kept your photograph in his desk. Walter looked toward the casket. He kept too much. Margaret smiled through tears. He said the same about you. She guided him toward the family row. Walter did not sit. First, I need to return something. Captain Brooks opened a path to the casket. Walter approached alone. The walnut box trembled slightly in his hands. For 54 years, the 3 objects had been kept apart from ordinary life. The dog tag in the top drawer of his desk. The cord wrapped inside cloth. The coin stored in a box where his wife once kept letters. After she died, Walter placed them together. He knew the day was coming when he would have to give them back. He set the box carefully on the flag, then opened it. The burned dog tag came first. The cemetery disappeared behind the sound of rain. Walter was 29 again, moving through a valley beneath a storm so heavy that daylight looked like dusk. A reconnaissance helicopter had gone down beyond the ridge. Command believed the 9-man team was lost. Then Walter heard 3 broken words through the static. 7 still moving. The recovery officer ordered them to wait for daylight. Walter tied parachute cord around his waist. They are waiting. 4 men followed him into the fog. They found the wreckage empty. Thomas Whitmore had moved the survivors uphill before rising water reached the aircraft. Walter found him beneath a stone shelf, keeping a younger soldier awake by asking about his hometown. Thomas was 23. Cold. Injured. Still counting everyone before himself. Took you long enough, Tom said. Walter crouched beside him. You chose a poor place to wait. The route back crossed mud, fog, and a flooded ravine. Walter tied the 7 survivors together with the parachute cord. 1 man every 6 feet. If one slipped, the others would feel it. If one vanished into the fog, the line would tell them. Count them twice, Tom said. Walter counted. 7. Then 7 again. The radio failed near the ravine. Walter opened the casing and found a loose fitting vibrating beneath the wind. He wedged a silver coin against it. The connection returned. 3 minutes. Long enough to transmit their position. Long enough for a pilot to answer. The rescue helicopter reached them, but could not carry everyone on the first lift. Thomas refused to board. Walter examined the burned dog tag Tom had removed after the crash. Tom closed Walter's fingers around it. If only one of us gets out, take my name home. Walter looked at him through the rain. I am not carrying your name without you. The first helicopter departed with 6 survivors. Walter remained with Tom. They waited beneath the trees until the aircraft returned. Neither man spoke for a long time. Then Tom looked at the cord tied around Walter's waist. You kept us together. Walter listened for the returning rotor. That was the job. The second helicopter arrived after dark. Walter helped Thomas aboard. The dog tag remained in his pocket. He carried Tom's name home, with Tom still attached to it. Arlington returned. Walter placed the tag on the flag, then the cord, then the dented coin. He arranged them in a straight line. The name, the bond, the time. Margaret stood behind him with one hand over her mouth. Walter rested his scarred palm beside the box. You asked me to carry your name home. His voice was low. The honor guard heard him. So did the family. I did it once. His hand began to tremble. Today, I brought mine. Walter looked at the card. For Walt. Front row. No questions. His jaw tightened. I should have called you back. The wind moved across the flag. No one tried to answer for the dead. Walter folded the card. He placed it beside the coin, then stepped back. Margaret touched his arm. He knew you would come. Walter looked at the casket. He knew I was slow. He knew you finished what you started. The funeral resumed. The rifle salute rolled across the cemetery. The bugler raised the instrument. Taps began. Walter stood in the 9th position beside the honor guard. He wore no uniform, no medals. No title had been announced before his name. When the final note faded, Captain Brooks gave the command. The honor guard presented arms. Walter raised his right hand. His fingers trembled during the first inches. At his brow, they became still. Across the lawn, Barrett came to attention at the gate. Hayes saluted beside the security vehicle. Senior officers followed. Walter held the salute for Thomas Whitmore. Not the general. Tom, the 23-year-old lieutenant who had chosen a poor place to wait. After the family stepped away, Command Sergeant Major Robert Keene approached Walter with a sealed folder. General Whitmore directed that the mission record be submitted for historical correction after his funeral. Walter looked at the folder. The other men first. Keene opened the document. 7 names appeared on the first page. Thomas E. Whitmore, Daniel Ruiz, Samuel Hart, Peter Nolan, James Ellis, Marcus Bell, Walter James Mercer. The record names all 7, Keene said. Walter read them once. Then again. No one missing. The Army can now correct the public account and review the withheld recommendation. Walter handed the document back. Correct the names. And the award? Walter picked up his cane from beside the chair Margaret had reserved. The men came home. Keene understood. Yes, sir. Margaret kept the walnut box. The tag, cord, coin, and handwritten card would remain together. Captain Brooks walked Walter toward the gate. Behind them, the 9th position remained open. No soldier filled it after Walter stepped away. At the checkpoint, Barrett opened the outer lane. This time, he did not ask for identification. Walter passed beneath the stone archway, then stopped. He looked back at the honor guard, the flag, and the long white rows of headstones. Thomas Whitmore had crossed many guarded doors during his life, but he had lived long enough to reach them because one medic had once refused to leave him outside. Some places are reserved by rank. Others are earned by the man who brings everyone home.